Guys, Django here, and welcome to Valhelsia 5, episode 14. And in this episode, we are going to automate our inscribers. This is long overdue. We've got a semi-automatic inscriber set up right behind me here, and we're going to turn this into fully automated with auto crafting and even some storage solution that's going to automatically keep a bunch of processors in stock. So we don't have to wait for this machine to make us new ones on demand. Now, I see this as a good opportunity to take what's both a pretty easy setup, but it's also kind of technical and complicated. And let's go through it step by step and see if we can get a full understanding of how we set up all these different things with applied energistics, from the pattern provider to an interface to storage buses, import buses, export buses, channels, managing channels, and get this thing all set up in a nice, easy to understand Inscriber automation. So stick around. So let's take a look at inscribers and just get a refresher on how they work. This is my semi-automated inscriber setup. I just put things in these barrels and they filter down through the different inscribers. This one's a logic press, calculation press, engineering press. They take different items and turn them into printed circuits, and then the printed circuits come down into here and in the final stage, which takes printed silicon, redstone, and the printed circuit, like a printed logic circuit, and turns it into the final product. So for example, if we put a gold ingot up here, it's going to come down in here and get turned into a printed logic circuit. And then that machine presses them together into a logic processor, just like that. Now, inscribers are interesting because, let's put one down here, because they take inputs from the top, from the bottom, and from the sides, and output on the sides. And so this makes it challenging to get a nice setup that's organized and compact. And fortunately, we can turn inscribers on their side. And now the top and the bottom are on the sides, and we can feed them with hoppers. So that's why this is working with things all nice and compact here, because hoppers obviously can't push something up into the bottom of something. So flipping it on its side takes care of that. So we're going to leverage that. He is going to be annoying. Let's take care of him. All right, we got some stuff there. Ender pearls. All right, Enderman. All right. Okay, let's go set this up right behind here. We'll set it up right along here, and we'll kind of, I guess we'll leave our existing inscriber setup as kind of a museum piece. This inscriber setup is on a subnetwork, which means it's isolated from our main network and will only take up one channel. So we can just tack it right on here. And it's going to just take one channel. We're going to do that with a pattern provider and an ME interface right here. So the pattern provider is the first step, and we're going to put the patterns for the three processors. We've got them right here: engineering processor, calculation processor, and logic processor. We'll talk about how we make those in a bit, but let's stick them right in here. That's our pattern provider with our patterns in it, and we're going to put an interface right here. Now the interface comes in two different formats: a block and this panel one. I think we could put the block one here, but the panel one interfaces nicely with the pattern provider like that. So we're going to use that version of it. And basically what this does is it just takes the stuff from the pattern provider and then makes it available to this subnetwork that's behind here. And the subnetwork, we're just going to run it out like this. And we need inscribers on here. And we need one inscriber for each of the different printed circuits. So logic, engineering, calculation, and we need one for the printed silicon. And then we need one more inscriber, which is this bottom one here that puts it all together. Okay, so there's our inscribers. And each of our inscribers need to have a storage bus on them. Just going to tuck these storage buses right in here like this. This one needs one too. We'll get to that one later. Okay, and so let's focus on this one right here, which is going to be our printed logic circuit. And so the way these storage buses work is that once something goes into the network, It will only go into this network if it has some place to go. And these storage buses provide that. Anything connected to a storage bus becomes storage on our network. And in this case, it's just this little mini network here, this sub network. So when something goes into this interface, which is handed off by the pattern provider, it's then going to be placed somewhere if it can be. And in this case, we right click and configure this storage bus to take a gold ingot. And this is where all gold is going to go. We put a gold ingot in here. Once we power all this, which is not powered yet, that gold ingot will go into here. Now we also need these all to be configured to filter on insertion only, because this storage bus, the other benefit of a storage bus is that it goes two directions. So if there's something in this network that says, hey, I need this thing that is stored in a storage bus, it will pull it out and make it available. And that's going to be how we get things down into this final inscriber. Okay, let's get this whole thing powered here, because we need power, but we want it to be isolated from the network. So we need an export bus. So this export bus, we're going to see how this plays in later, but right now it's going to isolate things from our network. It's going to be the final step which pulls the finished products back into the network again and hands it back to the pattern provider. So to power this, we need a quartz fiber right here. And then we just need to connect these things together. And now we can see, because we're using smart cable, how many channels are getting used. So there's 6 of 8 channels on this subnetwork here. Now these storage bus and interfaces isolate the pattern provider from this network out here. So the pattern provider is actually connected to our main network, and you can see there's 1 channel being used. That's the pattern provider. Okay, so this is the only thing that our main network sees. It basically has these 3 patterns available in our crafting terminals, and all the work will be done behind the scenes, handed back to the pattern provider, and then passed back out into the network. So here's our subnetwork. Right now it has 6 channels on it. And now these storage buses are online. The inscribers are not online. The inscribers still need to be powered. So we need 1 more connection right here. Now inscribers don't actually use any channels. So they're just getting powered by this blue cable right here, and then they're touching each other. So now they're powering each other. Now that gold ingot should have gone in here once we powered it, which it did. So that storage bus, again, which is filtered with gold ingots, is pulling gold ingots out of this interface and putting them in that inscriber. Now this one, we want to configure, we'll make this one Certus quartz, and this one, Certus quartz is used for a calculation press, and an engineering press requires a diamond. And we can just drag it in here. We don't actually need a diamond to configure that. And we want to set these up to filter on filter on insertion only. And this one over here needs silicon. And again, filter on insertion only. Okay, now finally, we need to put the the presses in the inscriber. So this one needs a logic press, because that's the one for the gold. And now it's working. You can see it's processing this and turning it into a printed logic circuit. And now it's got no place to go. So it's going to sit there. This one was Certus quartz, so this one needs to be a calculation press. This one is engineering, so it needs to be an engineering press. And this is our silicon one, so it needs this silicon press right here. These presses, by the way, we get from meteorites in the world. Just go find a meteorite, break into it, get the chest on the inside. It's not even a chest anymore. It's a mysterious box or something like that that has all of them in there. You usually only need to find 1 meteorite. Okay, so now if we put a Certus quartz in here, it went over here into this inscriber, and that's going to get turned into a printed calculation circuit. So just like that, and that's how these work. This is stage 1. We've got all our ingredients crafted by these inscribers. We need to connect them to this final stage, which we'll do like this. And so now this storage bus is going to take the redstone. Because again, what we need is redstone, the printed silicon, and one of the printed circuits to go into the 3 different sides on this. And now, because we're inserting from the top and the bottom, this is the one we need to rotate on its side. The back is going to get the redstone. The redstone goes in this slot, and the printed circuits go in these 2 slots up here. So if we right-click once on this thing with a wrench, it rotates it. So now this is the bottom, this is the top, and this is still the back. That's still going to get the redstone. We also wanted to configure that one for insertion only because we're going to want to pull the final product out through there and send it back to that export bus. Okay, now we just need to get the printed circuits from these 3 and put them over on this side, and the silicon from this machine and put it into this side. Let's do this first. So it's around the corner, and we need here an export bus, because this one is going to be configured for, say, a printed logic circuit, and it's going to say, okay, I need one of these things, and we're going to export it. And because it's available through a storage bus down there, it should already been pulled out. And there it is. It got pulled out of this inscriber right here. You can see this one's empty now. Now, in order for this one to pull out the other types, we need a capacity card in here to make more slots available. So we just put a capacity card in here, and now we can configure this to grab the other 2 types, which is the printed calculation circuit and the printed engineering circuit. So now, whenever there's one available and a space available to put it in here, it'll put those in this slot, this inscriber. And we didn't test it, but if we put redstone right here, it should have stored the redstone in here. Why didn't it? Storage bus. Oh, I didn't put it in the right spot. That is the spot. We'll see what that does later. But now the redstone should have been put down in here. Here we go. Now we've got 2/3 of our things. So now we just need to get the silicon, the printed silicon, out of here and into here. Now, at this point, we've used up all 8 of our channels on this blue smart cable. So we can't add another device to this, or it's going to bring the whole network down, the whole sub-network down. So we're just going to create a secondary network by putting a different colored cable here. If these were the same color, they'd connect together, and we don't want that. So 2 different colors helps that. We could also use cable, what are they called? Cable anchors, and put a cable anchor between these 2 if these were the same color, and that would prevent them from connecting to each other. So a cable anchor could do that if you don't have colored cables. All right, so now to get the printed silicon from this one into here, we need a storage bus right here and an import bus right here. Now the import bus will pull something from here, import it into the network, and insert it into this storage bus if there's something available in this inscriber. So now if we put silicon in here, it got pulled in right here. It's getting processed. And when it's done, it will get sucked into here through this import bus. And it's not working because this isn't powered. So we just need to power it. And let's just quickly put a quartz fiber right there. And now it's powered and it went in. And now this isn't working because this device isn't powered. We just need to make one more connection with the power. This. And now this is powered and it's starting to process it. And now there's a logic processor completed. The printed calculation circuit that was in our network came in here. That's ready to go. But why is this still sitting here? That's because it has no place to go. So there's a storage bus here. So we need to pull from this storage bus back into our pattern provider. And that's where this I put a storage bus here before. This needs to be an export bus. So that's my bad. Export bus. There we go. It's still not going to work because it's not configured. Export buses need to be configured. But if we put a printed, not a printed processor, if we put the logic processor on here, yes, it'll pull that logic processor out of the final step of final inscriber step. We need another capacity card here so we can put the other three types of processors in here, like this and like this. And now this export bus says, all right, if any of these storage devices has a completed processor, export it, and we're going to put it into this pattern provider, which is going to then send it back into the network to complete the process. You can see here that logic processor is gone. All right, let's take this out and let's give this a test because we're done. We are completely done. So now, again, we've got these processing patterns here. It produces an engineering processor with a diamond, redstone dust, and silicon. If we go and take a look over here in our pattern encoding terminal, here's what one of these looks like here. If we just say, hey, I want to make a pattern for an engineering processor, the crafting recipe is the printed circuit and the printed silicon with redstone. But when we're handing this off to our automation over there, we don't want printed silicon, we want silicon. And we don't want a printed engineering circuit, we want a diamond. And we make this pattern, and that's what we have in our pattern provider over there. So now let's make logic processor. We just make one of these. We're going to hurry up and go take a look. I'm stuck. So the printed silicon and the printed logic circuit made it in here. It gets sucked back out and into our system over here. If we make let's see if we can be a little quicker this time. And we'll make a calculation processor. Let's make two of these so we can see it happening more quickly. Here we go. Here's our logic processor, printed logic getting made, and then the printed logic circuit and the printed silicon go in there and they get turned into there you go again. Here's the second one. That's going to disappear back into the network. You can see all of this was pretty slow, right? We can speed these things up quite a bit by putting acceleration cards on all of the different devices that can accept an acceleration card. So we put 3 acceleration cards in there. We'll put acceleration cards in here, in here, 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 and here. I don't think storage buses can take acceleration cards. They cannot. So the storage buses we can't speed up, but this export bus we can speed up. Give that one 3 acceleration cards. And I think that's as much as we can speed up this network. We can put acceleration cards in here in this import bus as well. So import buses, export buses can take acceleration cards plus the inscribers. So now let's make 10 logic processors and see how fast this goes now. Going quite a bit faster. Not lightning fast though. So this is still slow enough that it's noticeable when you're crafting something and you need some logic. Oh, some processors. Like if you're making a bunch of storage cells, those need a bunch of different processors and it'll take a long time. So let's set up a quick device that will keep a certain number of processors in stock. And so we're going to put an interface down right here, attach it to our main network. And if you have an interface connected with a storage bus, on one side, like this, and just connected straight in on a second side, you now have a kind of automatic keep things in stock system here. So if we put some logic processor, calculation processor, and engineering processor, this top row tells it how many to keep in stock in this interface. And so if we configure this, we configure them each for 64. Oops. That's a lot of diamonds, but we'll do it anyway. It's now going to store what it can. So because it's connected over here on the side, it just pulled these things from our network and stored them in this interface. And because there's a storage bus on top, it is showing this as storage to our network. So the network has access to these things, but they're stored in here. And because we've got them configured for a stack each, they're automatically going to put them in here. Now, this one hasn't filled up again because we don't have more than 20 engineering processors. So this is all of the engineering processors in our network. And in order for this thing to automatically craft more, you need to put a crafting card right here. And now when I put that here, it's going to say, oh, hey, I need more of these because it has a crafting card. It's going to automatically kick off the auto crafting to create those. And there it goes. It's making 44 or more. I'm not even sure I have 44 diamonds. Oops, wrong one. But now we're crafting these. We're going to see this continue to tick up. And if we go look over here in the crafting terminal, we can see that there are crafting jobs for this. And there you go. There is automated inscribers in a nice, easy layout. Again, the patterns go into the pattern provider here. When a job is requested, those 3 components are put in the pattern provider, which go into the interface. The interface then makes them available to this network in putting them in these different spots with the storage buses that are configured for one of those things, the appropriate one for the appropriate press. So those are completed. The storage bus makes those available again to the network, and they'll get pulled out by these export buses here and this import bus here to go into the final inscriber where the last job is happening. I think that's a wrap. I hope that was useful. I tried to explain the whole thing so we can understand exactly what's going on with this. Once you get your head around what all the different components do, it's pretty straightforward. It's possible to make a much more compact setup for this. I think that makes it a little bit more difficult to understand. So we've spread it out a little bit at the expense of space, but we've got plenty of that around. I hope that was useful. If you have any questions, please drop a comment and I'll do my best to answer them, or jump in the Discord, discords.gg/Jangro. If this was helpful, please like the video, subscribe to the channel to keep up on more Valhelsia 5 tutorial videos, and we'll see you next time. Thanks for watching. I appreciate you.